When I think about collecting bad habits over the pandemic, I think that in a lot of ways, people have tried to adjust the best that they can. And sometimes that has been challenging. I think that school for people being online and some tests being like open book now and things being done differently, I think it made studying weird and different and easier, but confusing because you didn't have to do as much work. And so that part of like how to then study for normal tests probably is a bit different. I think that when people are at home, in the workplace, they have closer access to things like food and substances. And so that has led to increased substance use in the general population over COVID, has led to either restrictive or binge eating, because eating is something you can try to control your emotions with or control something in your life. And so that has been something we've seen. And I'm sure in college students, it's very similar where, their friends are experimenting, they have access to things, and having access to something that makes you feel better quickly as opposed to something that makes you feel better in the long run. It makes sense why people turn to it. I think it just has been a really long time to be turning to it, and that habit becomes a pretty dangerous one over time, I think. And, if you need more and more, or it ends up being something you do in the morning before school and things like that. So that can definitely be a problem. I will add, though, that like some people have liked being home and that this environment has been good for some people. So people who have social anxiety have really liked COVID because they haven't had to go to class in person. They got to go to class online. They didn't have to go pretend that they liked being around people and like act a certain way and have that distract them from actually doing work. The same with like the pressure to drink in college. Maybe you don't want to drink, but maybe now all the parties don't exist, so you don't have to have that pressure. So some of these things that got a little bit easier over COVID for particular groups of people more than others, I think that group also struggles more with the transition back to quote unquote normal, because it turns out that they liked some of those things and you don't get to keep them unless the school changes how they are, or you're vocal and communicate how you feel to find a certain friend group and that sort of thing.